How are you still single?
There's someone out there for you.
Jesus is your boyfriend now.
Meet and greet's coming up. You know what to do.
The key is to act like you don't care.
It happens when you don't expect it.
Who are you bringing to the wedding? If I was a girl, I'd date you.
Who can we set you up with?
Sorry, couples only. Have you tried internet dating?
She looks single.
You know who else wasn't married? Paul.
All single ladies. All single ladies. Come on.
Happens when you're not looking.
Work on your smile. He's single.
You know who else wasn't married? Jesus.
It's okay to be a fifth wheel. Maybe if you give God one of your ribs, he'll give you a wife. You should change your Facebook profile picture.
You know who else wasn't married? Matthew. No, he was married.
You should meet my cousin.
Just pray about it.
Pray harder.
This series is on marriage. You don't need to pay attention.
You're not that old yet.
You can't settle.
You know, you might want to think about settling.
There's plenty of fish in the sea.
We're gonna celebrate not having Valentine's Day.
If she says, "You're like my best friend," that's bad.
You should try Overflow.
Maybe she can see you tithe.
You know, when you have a wife, you can't play as much Xbox. You should get a dog. Have you asked Jesus for a wife?
Are you on Christian Mingle?
Have you tried this? This looks good.
I have a great book for you to read. It's called the Bible.
Jesus is your girlfriend now.
Dude, you have to get someone hot because you're gonna be married to them forever.
You are gonna make such a cool aunt.
It's not about you.
You know, there's no marriage in heaven.
It's all about you.
I don't know, is he a Christian?
It's about Jesus.
I know people who got married when they were like 70, okay? You're fine.
Marriage is like a sandwich. It takes a long time.
You're not gonna meet your husband at a bar.
Do you want to be Jim and Pam or do you want to be Ross and Rachel?
For it is better to be unmarried. See?
Oh, that was great. That was great. Well, it's an honor and a privilege for me to be with you today. I am Pastor James Matchett. I'm the campus pastor at Gainesville. So I want to say hello to all the campuses, especially the Gainesville campus, because I love them. And but I know they're in good hands today. Today, I'm also really excited to be with you. Because I'm kind of coming back home. There's probably only a handful of you that know who I am or remember me from about 10 years ago. But I used to work here at the main campus as the youth pastor a long time ago. But when I was here, I was single, okay? And so Pastor Mike and Tina, they walked with me through that season of my life. And so like he said a while back, he gave me a call, said, "Hey, Pastor James, you'd be able to speak to this a little bit better than I would be able to speak to it." So this message is for those of you who are young and single, those of you who are single again, those of you who wish you were single, maybe, I don't know. But for those of you who suffered through the marriage lesson and all the cruise announcements, this one's for you, okay? But I want everybody to know, just like we've said about all of the messages, there's plenty here for you. Whatever your relationship status on Facebook is, there's plenty here for you. Because what we're talking about really is how to prepare ourselves for a mature and healthy relationship. And so out of this, anybody and everybody, no matter where you are, I'm sure that you would love to be able to add more maturity and health to the relationships with those that you care about in your life. You will learn today how to improve yourself and how to improve the relationships that you have. So I was single for a majority of the time that I was here in Southern Maryland. And like I said, Pastor Mike and Tina were so good. They counseled me through ups, but then there was definitely some downs. I definitely struggled with certain periods of being single in a couple's world, being in everybody else's wedding except for my own. My friends having more kids than I had dates. That was pretty much my life. I felt like I struggled with it to some degree, and they were there. They were there with me. And I love the bumper video for the message because I heard so many of those things. And, there's a few things that all of us single people, if we've been single, especially in the church, I feel like there's this added level of expectation in the church even for singles, that you would find somebody and that you would kind of move on to the next phase. So we would hear the same things over and over again. The first thing is everybody wants to set you up, okay? If they find out that you're single, they want to fix you up. So I had a lot of moms that had a single daughter. I had a lot of people that had one single friend, and we were always perfect for each other. Person barely knows me, but knows that I'm perfect for their single friend, I guess because we're both single and alive, I guess. That's all that you need to be perfect, to be soulmates for one another. On the first date, that's all I check for is a wedding ring and a pulse. And that, well, we're meant for each other, you know. But everybody has somebody that you're perfect for, and they want to set you up. So you go through that. Then there's another group of people that when they interact with you, they interact with you like you have a terminal illness, okay? They really grieve for you, you know? They come up to you and they're like, I don't know why you're still single. You know, kind of like, why would God do this to you, you know? And they'd grab my hand and they'd say, it's going to be okay, you know, it's going to be all right. And then they'd say the one phrase that everybody says to single people as they end a conversation, because I'm not sure that anybody knows how to get out of a conversation with a single person without saying this. If you want to kill a single person, say this, okay? They would always end it by saying, I'm sure that there is somebody out there for you. And you know what I loved about when they said that? Is that I could tell that even they didn't believe that, all right? By the way that they said it. They said, you know, I'm sure that there's somebody out there for you, but in the back of their mind, they're going, but if you haven't found them yet, you're running out of time, buddy. You know, they might be in China for all you know, you know? You know, and that was always a secret fear of mine, that there actually was one person that God made for me out there, and they're like an Eskimo or something, you know, like how am I ever going to be able to find them? So I went through that season of life, and I was here, and Pastor Mike and Tino, they were able to be with me all the way up until when I found my wife, Katie, and I now have 2 beautiful daughters, and so we've been married. So yes, it is exciting. Some of those who felt sorry for me are now, yes, finally, you've been healed. You know, but it is great to be back. I want to identify with those of you who are single, because I know that I just told you that I was married, and I remember when I was single, I just checked everybody out who was married, because what I felt like everybody did when I was single is they diminished my experience and the reality of what I went through. And that was hard for me. And I know now that every phase of life does have its own challenges and its own stresses. Every phase of life, but they're different. And for those of you who are single, you have some very real temptations and things that you struggle with. And I want to make sure that you know that I know that, okay? And one of those is the temptation to feel as if you're lonely or alone. You're gonna face that. At this phase in your life, that's going to come. There are going to be things in your life that you experience or that you want to celebrate with someone else. And so you're going to face that temptation. That is going to be one of yours, okay? Every phase has got theirs, but that one's going to be, and it was, I had that, okay? I definitely felt that many, many days. The other one, and I don't know whether this is for everybody or is just for me, but one of the things that I faced is feeling as if my life was kind of on hold until I found somebody else. You know, because I had graduated, I had a career. Yes, being a youth pastor is actually a career. And so I was at a place in my life where I felt like, and everybody else felt that, okay, well, the next step in life is you get married and you have kids. And so you kind of feel like your life's on pause. And what's the most difficult thing about that is that you feel like you don't have any control over it. And you're kind of stuck. And so I want you to know that I understand those things. I wrestled with those things. I prayed about those things, and those things are very real. Now, what I do want to tell you is that this message does speak to those things specifically. And I do hope that in this message, I'm not going to promise any kind of miracle that you're just all of a sudden going to be healed of those things. Those temptations, that voice might always be there, but that does not have to be your reality every day. I believe that God has something more for me and for you than that, all right? So let's dig into Scripture. Let's see what God has to say. If you've got notes on the back of your handout, if you want to follow along, and it does have the verse there, 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 14 through 18. Now, the beginning of this passage is probably one that's familiar to you. I don't know that you would be as familiar with the rest of it. And that's actually where the real meat is here for this message today. So 2 Corinthians chapter 6, we're going to begin in verse 14. It says, "Do not be yoked together with unbelievers." Yoked means joined. "Do not be joined together with unbelievers. For what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness? What harmony is there between Christ and Belial? Or what does a believer have in common with an unbeliever? What agreement is there between the temple of God and idols? Now, I think that this is important for us to get. For we are the temple of the living God. And now what we're about ready to read is interesting to me. I just think that this is neat. What we're about ready to read is God's covenant with us. From the very beginning of the Bible in Genesis with Adam all the way to heaven, if you want to know what God desires, it is this covenant with us. He repeats this over and over and over and over throughout Scripture, that God has said, I will live with them and walk among them. I will be their God, and they will be my people. Therefore, come out from them and be separate, says the Lord. Touch no unclean thing, and I will receive you. And I really want this to settle in for us today. I will be a father to you, and you will be my sons and daughters, says the Lord Almighty. Before we move on, I want you to know that there needs to be a very powerful peace and comfort that can come in that last phrase that God, our Creator, says, I will be a father for you, and you will be my sons and daughters. And we're going to get back to that. Now, there's a couple of things that we want to pull out of that passage, obviously, and the first one is that God says very explicitly here that for the relationship that you desire, okay, the mature and healthy relationship that you desire to have with someone, if you choose to be married and you choose to join with somebody for the rest of life, that it would be somebody that shares your faith, okay, specifically your faith in Jesus, okay? That's what God desires. Now, I know that's hard for some of you in the room, that you may not even agree with that. I know that that's difficult, but we believe the Bible is true, right? Okay, we do, all right? Could you turn to your neighbor and say, I believe the Bible is true? All right, turn to your neighbor. All right, so that means that this verse is true, right? Right? Okay, turn to your neighbor and say, that means this verse is true. All right, so you said it, not me, okay? That means that if it's here, we've got to believe that God really, truly means this, and we have to deal with that. And I want to clarify, I don't think that God is saying that He doesn't want us to have a relationship with anybody who's an unbeliever. As a matter of fact, I think that's contrary to what God desires. I think He wants us to be out in the world. I think He wants us to make a difference. I think He wants us to be a light in the midst of darkness. But what God does know and understand is the power and influence of this central relationship in your life, the marriage relationship. It has great power and influence. It is that important to God that you have to get this one right. Throughout Scripture, the marriage relationship has taken down kings and kingdoms. It is that important. And so what God is saying is that if you're going to enter into a journey with somebody for the rest of your life, then shouldn't they be somebody that is walking alongside me as well as you and going the same direction? You see, I think that there is even more that we can glean from that passage, just speaking about our faith in God, but that it's important that we find somebody, if we want a mature and healthy relationship, that we find somebody that not only shares our faith and is headed in the same direction, but is also somebody that fits us. Now, when I say that you need to find someone that fits you, I know that maybe your initial thought is, oh, somebody that's got the right personality that balances mine. They have the same hobbies or personality or likes or dislikes. And that's not really what I mean, okay? Some of those things are important. Some of those things aren't important. What I'm talking about are the important things in life. You need to find someone that is in the same stage of life as you, that is at the same maturity level as you, that is on the same trajectory as you, that is headed in the same direction as you. It is important that you find somebody that can walk side by side with you, that fits with you, if you are to have a mature and healthy relationship. We're going to talk more about that, but it makes practical sense, doesn't it? If there's two pieces and they fit together, then they can work together and accomplish more than either of those pieces could accomplish on their own, right? If two pieces in any kind of mechanical scenario don't fit right together, well, then there's going to be friction, right? And then there's going to be smoke and heat and fire and breaking things and blowing up. Which relationship do you want? You know what I mean? It's important for you to find somebody that is on the same trajectory, that is in the same place. If you desire a mature and healthy relationship, not only are you ready for that relationship, but that you find somebody else that's ready for that relationship as well. All right, to put some more romance back into it, I do think that when you find a person that fits you, that's in that same phase of life with you, there is a natural attraction that is there, okay? And I want to talk about attraction for a little bit because that's where all relationships start, right? You know, guy meets girl, girl meets guy thinks girl's cute, girl thinks guy is hot. Is that what you say now? Hot? I don't know. But, you know, that's attraction. Let's get the ball rolling. That's where relationships start, is with attraction. And I know that when I was single and in that single phase, I spent so much time thinking about attraction and how I could make myself more attractive to the person that I wanted to be in a relationship with. Now, as I look back on it, I'm actually, I kind of laugh at myself because I spent most of my time focusing on attraction in the areas that I could do very little about, okay? The areas that I could change the least, okay? And so let's learn something together, all right? We're going to learn this together. You're going to learn what I learned the hard way, all right? Turn to your neighbor, okay? And what I want you to say to your neighbor is, no offense, you're good looking. Okay, you say that? That kind of felt good, didn't it? Aren't you glad you came to church tonight? When's the last time somebody said that to you, you know? Okay, so you just said, no offense, you're good looking. Now I want you to turn to them and say, but what you got, you got. All right? You know, isn't it true? You know, listen, what you got from a physical attraction standpoint is kind of what you got. You know, that's what you got to work with. There's only so much you can do, okay, with that. All right, when it comes to you being physically attracted to the person that you're going to be in a relationship with someday, to some degree, it's either going to be there or it's not going to be there. Am I right? You know, listen, I'm all for you making the most out of what you got, okay? Be healthy, find your own personal style, you know, do whatever. I'm all for somebody, you know, doing the best with what they've been given. But you know what? We often focus just on the physical, where I think that's where we can make the least amount of difference in attraction. What I do believe is that you can take what you got and you can make it far less attractive or far more attractive without focusing on anything physical at all. All right, I'm going to try to illustrate this a couple of ways, okay? The first way is I'm going to compare physical attraction to a funny hat, okay? All right, I don't want to offend you. I'll compare my physical attraction to a funny hat, all right? You know, if you've got have you ever seen somebody wearing a funny hat, all right? And you can either pull off a funny hat or you can't. All right, it's just the way that it is. You know, if you've got a funny hat and you want to wear that, if you're cautious, if you're kind of embarrassed, if you're shy about it, it's not going to work. All right, you're going to look funny in the funny hat. It's just the way that it'll be. You want to know how you pull off a funny hat? You rock that thing. All right, you rock it with confidence. All right, and if you rock that funny hat with confidence, then people will want to go buy that hat. You know, you can take the same thing, and with confidence, you can rock it and make it all that it can be. All right, now I'm going to bring this back home to me, okay? I feel like God's given me about a 5, okay? He gave me a 5, all right? And if you think that it's less, you be quiet, all right? I actually thought I was between a 5 and a 6, all right? And I went down, okay? So okay, let's just say I feel like God's given me a 5, all right? But this is what I'm going to do, all right? I'm going to rock this 5 like it's a 10. You know, I'm going to rock it, okay? I'm going to push the limits on this 5. I'm going to take it as far as it can go, all right? I actually think that makes a nice t-shirt, don't you? I may be given a 5, but I'm going to rock it like it's a 10, all right? You know, and so this is what if I've been given a 5, but with confidence, I rock that like it's a 10. I feel like that brings me somewhere to around an 8, you know? And that, if I'm an 8, then I can snag a 9. All right? That's the kind of math I do, all right? You know? Now, some of you know my wife, and you know she's a 10, all right? So you're kind of like, well, how did you do that? We actually found out, all right? She went to the eye doctor a couple months ago, and she can't see at all right? God is good to me, all right? You know, he knew that I struggled for a while, and God provided me somebody that could not accurately see me, all right? But I will tell you this, I was scared to death when she put those glasses on for the first time. That was a real deal, all right? But she's still with me. She's still with me, all right? But you know what? Confidence and completeness are attractive. Confidence and completeness are attractive. If you know who you are and you know where you're going, then that's attractive to those around you. It just simply is. You know what? We always wondered especially because I was the good guy that didn't get the girl, I was always wondering why the bad guys always got the girl, all right? But I now know that it doesn't have a whole lot to do with them being bad. It has to do with them having confidence. They have confidence. They don't care. They don't need anybody. They don't need anything. They've got confidence, and that confidence is attractive. As a matter of fact, I believe that confidence is attractive to men and women because neither men or women want to be in a relationship with somebody who's desperate and needy. But when we're single, it can be very tempting to feel desperate and needy. I did for a long time. And you know what? It shows in every aspect of our lives. And that's just simply not attractive. But what will make us the most attractive is to find a confidence and a completeness that would draw others to us. It just makes practical sense. I think it's hardwired inside of us that we would want to find somebody that's not going to pull us down, but somebody that can provide for us and can bring us up. I think all people are attracted to that. So how do we get that, okay? So we're going to take a little bit of a journey. If you want to take notes, we're going to grab your handout on the back. There's a table. We're going to fill this in for just a minute because I want to explain that a little bit further. What is a mature and healthy relationship? What does that look like? And how does that confidence and completeness fill in? So we're going to be on the upper left-hand corner of that, and we're going to talk about what am I talking about when I'm talking about being mature in relationships? Somebody who's mature in relationships understands that they don't need someone to be happy. That's independence, isn't it? When you recognize that you are independent, that you are mature, you are independent, you don't need someone to be happy, and what that provides you with is confidence. It provides you with confidence. It actually frees you from being needy in a relationship with somebody else because you don't have to take. And so what happens is when you don't have to take in relationships, you're free to give in those relationships. That's what a mature person can do in a relationship. They are free to give because they're in a mature place relationally. On the other side, let's take a look at the healthy aspect. A healthy person realizes and recognizes they don't need something to be happy. They realize that nothing on this earth really provides us with happiness. And what that does is it frees them in a completely different way. They don't have to take whoever they're in a relationship with down a bunch of rabbit trails to try to find happiness somewhere. They know that happiness is found in a life that has more meaning, and they're able to chase after those kinds of things. And they're also free to chase after the same thing with the person that they're in a relationship with. Do you see how being mature and healthy, being confident and complete, not needing anything, frees you to be the kind of person that you want to be in a relationship. Somebody that doesn't have to take, but can give. This is good news for all of us in relationships, that this is what we seek. So let's take a look at the bottom half, and it may be obvious at this point, but what is somebody that is immature in relationships? This is somebody that believes that they need someone to make them happy. And this is what we call codependence. All right, this is where you probably dated somebody like this or been around somebody like this, but they latch on to you and they do not let go. And why would they let go? Because they believe that you are taking care of them, providing something that they need. And so that relationship becomes about that person taking care of the other person. It becomes one directional, where you're focused on the one who believes that they need the other person to survive and to be happy. So that's what we call codependence. So on the other side, when we get to the unhealthy, this is somebody that believes they need something in order to be happy. When you're in a relationship with somebody who believes they need something, that is a person that is cranky, okay? I ran out of C words. All right, that's the best one I could come up with. But to be honest, it fits, because a person who thinks they need something to be happy is never content. When you're in a relationship with that person, they will convince you that if you just do this, then they'll be happy. If we just have kids, then I'll be happy. But they have kids and they're not happy. If I just have the house, then I'll be happy. But you have the house and you're not happy. And we have the car, then I'll be happy. If I have the phone, then I'll be happy. But you're not happy. And when you're in a relationship with somebody that's more on the immature place or in the unhealthy place, it's very frustrating, because you feel like your entire life is about what they need, but no matter what you do, it's not enough. Because you can't find happiness in a person or in things. You can only find happiness in God. And this is where you have to go. If you want to be mature and healthy in relationships, if you want to be mature and healthy, if you want to be confident and complete, then we have to deal with our issue of identity. This is why this was hard for me. As a single person, I began to identify myself as single. This is who I was. And it was, woe is me, I'm single, I'm broken, I don't have enough, I lived that life. I threw that pity party. Now here's the problem. All of us can do this with different things. We will tend to identify ourselves, label ourselves, or allow the world to label us by a number of different things. We will label ourselves by our salary, by our job, by our political party, by our race, whether we're single, whether we're not single. But anytime you identify yourself as anything other than God, you're selling yourself short. Because I'm here to tell you that your identity is in God. And it goes back to that passage and that covenant that God has for us. You want to know how to get confident and complete? Then you need to wrestle with your identity with God. Because this is what you must find. And this is what all of us must find. Until we find this, all of us in the room, we will continue to search and search and search and search for happiness and never find it, because it can only be found here in knowing that our identity is that the God of heaven that created me calls me beloved, loves me, and considers me one of his children, that he came to rescue me by his son Jesus Christ and gave me an example to follow, that his presence is with me at all, his breath is inside of me so that I can never say that I am alone, and he has called every single one of us. And what all of them have in common is that it involves changing the world and changing the lives of those around us, and he has an adventure in front of all of us if we will only follow him. That is what our lives are about. And none of that had to do with being single or not single, rich or poor, sick or healthy. Do you understand? Amen. Each and every one of us have access to the same purposeful, meaningful, rewarding, and fulfilling life. If you are single, do not believe that you somehow have to live a lesser life. It is not true. Whatever it is that you face, you are tempted to believe that because this thing I face, I have to live a lesser life. It's not true. Because for every single one of us, we have a God that loves us, a Jesus that saved us, a Spirit that's within us and empowers us, a calling to change the world and lives around us, and an adventure ahead of us if we will only follow God. And if we just chase that, then we have everything we need to be happy. Every day. You're right. Every day. And when you grab a hold of that identity, then you better believe it's going to give you confidence and it's going to make you feel complete. And so how do we get a mature and healthy relationship? Well, first off, we have to prepare. That's the next line that you can fill in on your handout. We have to prepare by becoming the right person ourselves. You see, if you want a mature and healthy relationship, it's probably going to involve you being mature and healthy, correct? All right? So part of this is on us, on our side. We have to make sure that we are preparing ourselves for the kind of relationship that we want to have, because it's going to involve us being mature and healthy as well. But on the other side, I also believe that you attract what you are. You get that? You attract what you are. If you are immature and unhealthy, guess who you're going to attract? The immature and the unhealthy. If you are mature and healthy, confident and complete, then you have the hope of finding someone to partner with in life that is also those things. And so if that is the relationship that you desire down the road, then you must become it, because you will attract what you are. Now, after you prepare for that relationship, by seeking God's identity for you and becoming confident and complete, there's an element here that you have to protect yourself for that relationship as well. You have to protect, okay, by waiting for the right person. All right? Now, there is the preparing on one end, and there is finding the right person on the other end, but there is something in the middle that can blow it all up. And it is us being reckless with what we have to give to that person someday. Now, I'm going to talk about intimacy for a little while, and I'm not going to say a lot about physical, emotional, whatever, because when you give yourself over to somebody completely, it oftentimes involves it all. Whether you believe that or not, you think that that's what you're doing or not, it oftentimes involves it all. Now, some of this, I am talking about physical intimacy. When you give yourself physically to somebody, you need to know that God has given us this great thing of intimacy. That it is so neat that in a physical act that we can connect with somebody, not only in a physical way, but God made it this way. We didn't make it. God made it this way that you, at the same time, you connect at a deep emotional level, relational level, and spiritual level. You connect not just with your body, but with your heart and your soul as well. That is what intimacy, and it is a great miracle and a wonderful gift when you're in that relationship with somebody to know that in one act I can connect with that person at so many different levels at one time. But God only designed it to happen once. But especially for those of us who are single and are in relationship after relationship after relationship before we find that person, the temptation is to continue to give ourselves over and give ourselves over and give ourselves over. And God just didn't design intimacy to be that way. And so what happens is that we join and then we tear when the relationship ends. And we join and then we tear and we join and we tear and we join and we tear, and there's damage done. There just simply is damage done. Now, I illustrated this point in kind of a silly way, but it's a silly illustration to prove a serious point. Katie and I, as we were dating, we both like sweets. I'm the kind of guy that I can't end a meal without a piece of chocolate. I don't think any day should be ended without a piece of chocolate. That's just the way. We both love sweets. And so one time we were having dinner and we were at a restaurant and the waitress comes and wants to know if we want a dessert. And so we talked about, you want a dessert? I want a dessert, I said. And so I said, do you want a dessert? And she said, no, I just want a bite of yours. Have you been in that situation before? All right? I had already been in that situation before, okay? So I already know how this goes. So when the waitress came and asked if I wanted a dessert, I said, yeah, we'll have 2 desserts, okay? And so she goes, why did you get 2 desserts? I said, I just wanted a bite, all right? I said, no, your bite is a lot bigger than just a bite, all right? You see, when I give that over to her, this dessert, all right, I know that I don't need something to be happy, but if I did, it would be dessert, all right? That's how important this is to me, all right? So as I give this over to her, I had this happen before. She always takes more than I want her to take, and I always get back far less than I want to get back, all right? Now listen, I know that's a silly illustration to prove a very serious point. But when we're in the moment in a relationship, we are very tempted to give the best of ourselves over. But the problem is that if and when that relationship ends, they always take far more than we wanted to give, and we always get far less back than we desired. And as that happens again and again, there's a world of people out there, I see it as a pastor, that are just filled with brokenness and pain and insecurities and emptiness and all sorts of baggage, because they've given themselves over time and time and time again. Now, here's where this is hard with a mature and healthy relationship. Okay, let's say that that's your past, and now you have the relationship that you desired, and you want intimacy with this person. If you're going to get to that level with them, you've got to unpack all the baggage. Whether you ever say the names or not, it doesn't matter. It's going to bubble up in your relationship. Just trust me. It's going to come up in fights and arguments, and where was that landmine? Something blew up. Where did that come from? Those kinds of things are going to happen. You're going to have to work through all of that. And what is hard is that when it's your past, you don't experience the pain. The person you love experiences the pain, and you know that they're experiencing the pain because of you and your mistakes. And that breaks your heart. Now, can God get you through that? Of course God can get you through that. Is it a fun process? No. And so is it wise for us to protect our hearts and our souls if we want a mature and healthy relationship? Yes, that's very wise. Now, I'm not saying that you don't need to fully give yourself in a relationship, but there's a line. Yeah, you got to put down your walls. You got to take some risks in relationship. I get that. You got to open your heart. But then there should be a line where you say, I'm going to reserve this for the one that I'm going to be in a relationship with for the rest of my life. And you say, listen, I know you're saying, well, I'm in the relationship with the one that I'm going to be with the rest of my life. Well, let's be honest. We also thought that about our prom date, okay? That was who we were going to marry, all right? And the person we were in a relationship with last, and the person we were in the relationship with before, and the person we were in a relationship with before. Now, here's the problem. Is that you don't know that it's, I've learned this about relationships, is that you don't know. You don't know that it's, anything can happen. You don't know that it's the one until it actually became the one. You know what I mean? And now here's the problem. If you've offered intimacy prior to them becoming the one, you've now confused the whole thing. Now you don't even know if they're the one. You can't even figure out if they're the one. You don't know whether you're together now because you're comfortable together or whether you're committed. And a lot of people, I see this all the time, they have given themselves in intimacy in a relationship too early, and now they feel as if they're stuck with an unhealthy person or a bad and unhealthy relationship because it's just simply more comfortable to stay than it is to go. If you want a mature and healthy relationship, you need to be mature and healthy. And you need to recognize that what you want to offer that person someday needs to be held tightly and treasured. Care for your heart, church. Care for your soul. There's too much brokenness out there. There's too many insecurities out there. There's too much baggage out there. Can God help you through it? Yes, He can. But if you can save yourself from it, please do. Protect your heart and your soul so that you have that to offer that person that you want to be in that relationship with someday. All right, so you're going to prepare yourself for a healthy and mature relationship. You're going to protect yourself by waiting to offer yourself to the person that you're going to be in a mature and healthy relationship. And then this last point is you're going to pursue, okay? You're going to pursue, and the good news on the pursue is that every single one of you in the room, you know the person that you're going to pursue. You say, I don't know. If I knew, I would be married to them. You know, where are they? You know? You do know, because it's God. You need to pursue God. And I'm not trying to be cheesy with this, but I'm going to make the point, all right? You don't ever take your eyes off of God. The moment you start to pursue a person more than you pursue God is the moment you start down the path of being desperate and needy. Do you understand what I'm saying? God didn't design it for us to chase after people and things for happiness. The moment we start to chase after people and things for happiness is the moment we empty ourselves and become desperate and needy. You must keep your eyes on God. You must focus on Him. Now, how I'm going to illustrate this is I feel like what God has before every single one of us, whether single, married, or whatever, but especially the life before the single person is like hiking up a mountain, okay? Anybody like to hike up a mountain? I forgot you guys don't have mountains here in Southern Maryland, so, you know what I'm talking about. Picture a mountain in your head, you know? So the mountain is God, all right? That's the mountain that you're on. He's your rock. He's your foundation. That's what you've chosen. That's what your life's about, all right? The summit is the calling that He has on your life, how He wants you to make a difference and change the lives of people around you. The trail is the adventure that He is leading you on, okay? That's what you focus on. Never lose sight of that. And I have to be honest, I was tempted, okay? I had found that, and then I started dating, and boy, is it easy to get distracted and start to focus on something else. But you can't lose the confidence and the completeness that you find in knowing that your identity is all wrapped up in God and where He's leading you. Now, when you are chasing what God has for you, Okay? You've made yourself attractive, remember? If you're chasing what God has for you, you've made yourself attractive. There is confidence and completeness that comes in that. And so some people are going to come along while you're hiking, all right? Don't wait to hike until you find somebody. Don't stand at the bottom of the mountain trying to find somebody to hike with, all right? Just start hiking. If you're single, you don't have to stop and wait for your life to move forward. God's got an adventure for you. Start taking it. He can use you today to start changing people's lives. Don't wait on somebody. Go after it, okay? Because there's a chance that that person's already up the road. So get going. But while you get going, some people are going to come along your path. You do, though you are pursuing God, you do have to choose the right person to take the rest of the journey with. Does that make sense? You're pursuing God, not a person, but you do need to identify and choose the right person to take the rest of your journey with. Because the person you choose is going to dramatically change the quality of the trip. You know what I mean? Some of you are married, you can't say right now because you're with your spouse. Who you choose to take the journey with is going to dramatically change the quality of the rest of that experience. And so these are the people that are going to come alongside you. They're going to be some children that are going to come alongside you. They're just immature. Okay, there's going to be some complainers that are going to come alongside you. And you can take them up the mountain, but you can kind of guess what that's going to be like. All right? And then you're going to have some fellow climbers that are going to come alongside you. All right? And whichever one of those you take, you need to identify them. Whichever one you take is going to change your experience. I'm going to give you an example. Katie and I, when we were dating, we did a lot of dating at Baltimore's Inner Harbor. She worked in the city, and so I'd meet her there. We'd walk around. It's a great place. We love being in the city. If we get a couple of days, we're going to go into the city. We can go where we want to go, shop where we want to shop, eat where we want to eat. So that's what we love to do. Well, one trip for our anniversary, we had a couple of days off, so we wanted to go, to a city, but we had just had a baby, okay? We had Eliana, our first, and now she's older, and she's got a younger sister, Caroline, but at this time, she was still a baby. So we took her with us, just thinking, hey, we'll still have a good time in Charleston. That's where we went, but we've got a baby, with us. Boy, was that a different trip, okay? Dramatically changed the experience. I didn't go anywhere I wanted to go. I didn't do anything that I wanted to do. I didn't eat anywhere I wanted to eat. It was all about that baby the entire time. And why wouldn't it be? The baby can't do anything. But if you're traveling with the baby, then it's going to be all about the baby. The whole experience. Is she hot? Is she cold? Is she hungry? Is she thirsty? Is she clean? Is she dirty? Where are the wipes? Is she taking a nap? Where's she taking a nap? Where are we going to eat? Where she can eat? Those the whole thing was about her. I don't remember a single thing except for, her. And we love our kids. I know we do. I love her to death. And it was a great experience. No, it was cute. I wanted to show you a picture of Eliana on that trip. That's Eliana on that trip. This is what I was carrying around for 2 days, all right? Do you see that, I guarantee you a lot of that's on her got on me as well, I want to hold that up there for just a second. I want that image to kind of get burned in your mind, okay? Because what I want to point out, I want you to get this. Some of you have dated that, all right? Do you understand me? All right? Some of you might be dating that right now, all right? All right, thank you, guys and gals back in the back, all right? I know they didn't look like that when you met them because they grew up physically, all right? But after a couple conversations, you realize they didn't grow up on the inside. They're still immature emotionally. They're still immature relationally. They're still immature spiritually. Now, you can take a baby up the mountain, but the rest of your life is going to be about the baby. It's going to be about you taking care of them. And you just need to know that. You can take a complainer up the mountain, and they're independent enough they can walk on their own at least. They can go on their own. They just don't want to go. So you got to drag them up the mountain, kicking and screaming, because they're just simply not comfortable with anything. They're just never content. So they're thirsty, they're hot, they got a rock in their shoe, they want to go back and watch TV. Why are we even on this mountain, They're going to be continually trying to pull you off your path. And they don't want to go on a path. They're after other things. And so you're going to be constantly pulling them along. Now, one person that I didn't deal with on this mountain climb is the person who doesn't have the same faith as you, because they're not even on your mountain. They're off on another mountain somewhere else. And if you're going to be in a relationship with somebody who doesn't share your faith, then you better get used to climbing alone. And I know that some of you don't necessarily agree with me on that, but there's a bunch of people in this room right now who are alone because their spouse is on another mountain, headed in another direction, and they would tell you that I'm right, because I see it all the time. And you say, oh, but we're so in love, and we've got so much in common. It's just our... Listen, I don't care what you tell me. Kisses and kayaks ain't going to get it done. It just ain't going to get it done. Because life is hard and relationships are hard. And there are going to be some hard moments. And one thing I have learned in marriage is that when the marriage is hard, there's no kissing, all right? There's no kayaks either, all right? But then there's going to be the fellow climber. You want to know the neat thing about the fellow climber when they come along you on you're pursuing God and what God has for you, and you're changing lives and God's using you and it's awesome, and all of a sudden, how long have you been there? You know, you don't even know that the fellow climber comes alongside you because they're keeping pace, with you. They're after the same things you're after. So they've actually been with you for a long time. You didn't even realize it. You start to realize you got some things in common because both of you prepared for the trip. You got some of the same gear. You got some of the same knowledge and interests. You're headed in the same direction. And you know what's so cool about climbing with a fellow climber is that you both know that you don't need the other person to get to the top. I know that God's going to get me up there. I can get up there. But you know what? It would be nice. There's some tough spots up there. This person could give me a boost. I know that I've got some things that I could add value to their trip. I could help them up some spots. I could be of assistance. And I sure would enjoy the conversation along the trip. A lot better than the crying and complaining in the last 2 relationships I had. I'd enjoy the conversation as we go. To be able to find a fellow climber, to help each other on the trip, getting where God has both of you to go. That's the mature and healthy relationship. As I wrap up, I want to tell you, one of the hardest things for this message for me is that I know that I'm telling you something that's not that easy to do. I'm telling you, stop chasing after a person, start chasing after God, and everything's going to be fine. Like, I know that, okay? I tried that. I prayed that prayer every day for months. It's just not that easy. Now, I know what I did wrong. My heart wasn't really in it. I was actually praying that God would release me to go chase somebody else, when God is never going to release you to chase something else. God will never release you to chase something else but Him. What happened for me, a prayer didn't solve it for me. Life happened. I got distracted from my pursuit of somebody. Life happened, ministry happened. All of a sudden, in a moment, I found God in a very special way, and I found a calling on my life that made sense to me, and so I found confidence and completeness. And when I woke up from that distraction of chasing after somebody and went back to thinking about relationship, I realized I was in a different place than I had ever. God helped me get there. And if you keep chasing Him, He will help you get there. So when I got there, I had a date one night, and I bumped into Pastor Mike, and I said, Pastor Mike, it's hard. I don't even really want to go. I said, I have struggled so much, and I finally gotten to a place where I'm in a good place with God, and I'm in a good place with life, and I don't want to mess that up. I don't want to get distracted. And so he went home, and he told me this later. He went home and he told Tina, he said, James is going to meet his wife tonight. And she said, what? How do you know that? And he said, because he doesn't need to. And that night I met Katie in the most romantic place that there is, an IKEA parking lot. It's a fairy tale, But the rest is history. She hasn't been able to keep her hands off of me since. But church, I'm so thankful that I have a God that loves me like His own, and that I have a Savior that I can follow, that I have His presence with me every day so that I can never say that I'm alone, empowering me forward and a calling to make a difference in this world and the lives around me and the adventure that He has laid before me, so that He has made me into a climber. And not only that, but that He brought a fellow climber along eventually. And we have a blast every single day helping each other get where God wants us to go together. That's what we're after. That's a mature and healthy relationship. Pastor.